Yo, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. And yeah, I've been gone for a while, but I think I'm back and I'm ready to make a lot more what ifs. My voice has probably changed, and you guys are probably like, where's that squeaky Yeah, but other than that, we're gonna start off with a great what if right here. And it's gonna be what if Deku was a samurai slash Bushi? I've been watching a lot of anime lately, and a great place to watch anime is no, we're not sponsored, okay? Okay, if you thought we were sponsored, you gotta be kidding yourself, okay? Well, either way, I've been watching a lot of anime on, Crunchyroll and pirating sites. And a great anime that I watched was Orient. So I might as well do a what if on it. And, other than that, let's get started. And anything else that you need to know is that this is gonna be a banger. So let's start off this what if with a bit of backstory. So this world used to be overrun by these things known as Oni, or is known as demons, as their main goal was to enslave humanity and bring them to the brink of extinction and just completely destroy them. As many people started to worship them, seeing them as gods as well, but they actually weren't. And some people started to realize this, and they knew what they had to do, as they became and banded together and became what is known as a bushi, or is known as samurai. As these samurai would cut down these demons with their swords and gain their powers, lifting their swords into the air. As they kept on doing this, bringing the demons to the brink of extinction, as this became a forgotten part of history. But the power of the demons still inside the bushi, or is known as the samurai, started to resonate with many people, as it continued to grow and became powerful enough and evolved. As it evolved, so did the people. And this is where we get what is known as a quirk, as the demon's power evolved to become the quirks, and soon enough 80% of the population had quirks. So we start off the story with Izuku being born, but sadly when Izuku's born, Inko doesn't survive, and the pressure of being an only father pressures Musashi, and he just leaves. And the only people that can take him in are his relatives, as his relatives are especially traditional and see him as a love child and just an affair and, the cause of Inko's death, and blame him for everything as they abuse him. And basically, while growing up, Izuku becomes numb, seeing all the abuse that he endured. And they actually live next to a mountain, which actually used to be a hotspot for Oni. But the thing is, the mountain is off limits to everyone, because they so-called said that there used to be animals with quirks which were very dangerous, as it was off limits to everyone. But we all know that the mountain is actually just overrun by many Oni. And even in this world, Izuku's not born with a quirk, and because of this, his relatives abuse him a lot more as well. As Izuku goes through his daily routine of doing all the chores in the house and basically, being abused by his relatives, he goes outside to put away some wood that he gathered and sees some smoke coming from the mountain, as he doesn't know where it's from, but he usually sees it sometimes. And Izuku's around the age of 4 right now. And as Izuku grows up, he knows that his relatives only keep him around so they can take the money that he's gonna gain from the will from Inko when he becomes the age. And as soon as Izuku turns 6 years old, they make Izuku write his will off to them, as they take all the money from Izuku and tell Izuku to go into the mountain, and if he comes down, that they'll kill him personally. And as Izuku leaves, they call the police and basically tell the police that Izuku went into the mountain and that he must be dead by now, as the police write him off as dead, and they go on with their day. As Izuku goes up the mountain, he notices a old shack, or like an old house, as he's wondering to himself how there could be a house up here, since the mountain's prohibited to everyone and no one can come up here. As Izuku looks, he notices an old man with white hair and blue eyes, but this isn't your ordinary old man. He seems more masculine and more determined, as his aura is radiating from him, as Izuku is just kind of mesmerized by this person. But as Izuku snaps back to reality, he sees himself as a worthless piece of stuff, and he decides not to bother the person. He decides he's not going to be doing anything, since, he's not going to ask the person for help or anything, since he sees himself as useless, worthless, and basically everything in the books because of his abusive family, and decides that he's just gonna kill himself, and that he'd rather kill himself than being abused by someone else again. So he decides to keep on going up the mountain, as he finally encounters an Oni, And as he's about to get attacked by the Oni, as the Oni lunges toward him, but all of a sudden, the old man, out of nowhere, comes in and slices the Oni in half with his bare hand. As all of a sudden, as Izuku falls back, confused what's going on. But as the Oni's healing and gathering itself back up again, the old man pulls out his sword, and cuts the Oni into many little pieces, as Izuku's wondering what just happened. As the old man's sword starts to absorb the Oni's power, as the sword starts to glow even more, and it just randomly turns into a cane, as Izuku's super confused what just happened, as he's confused in what this old man's doing all the way up here, and how he was able to kill the Oni, and how he was able to turn his sword into a cane. As a plethora of emotions overwhelm Izuku starts crying, as the old man walks toward Izuku and asks him what he's doing here. Izuku is still in shock, can't answer the old man, as the old man sighs, as Izuku all of a sudden feels a sharp pain near his neck, as Izuku slowly passes out. When Izuku wakes up again, he notices the old man has tended to his wounds and is tending to himself right now, as he notices that the old man's muttering to himself, saying that they always keep on coming back. As Izuku finally realizes what happened, seeing that this man defeated that beast of a thing, as we know this as an Oni. As Izuku has so many questions but is too afraid to ask what happened. As the old man notices Izuku's awake, he walks toward Izuku and sits down right next to him. As then, he reaches his hands out, but Izuku is afraid and lunges back. As the old man tells Izuku that he's not gonna hurt him. As Izuku calms down, the old man hands Izuku a cup of tea, as Izuku immediately drinks it, as Izuku calms down. As Izuku finishes drinking his tea, Izuku mutters up the courage to ask the man and how he was able to kill the beast. As the old man chuckles and sighs and tells Izuku that it's not called a beast and is actually known as an Oni, as Izuku is completely confused what the old man's talking about. As the old man chuckles and says that he hasn't explained the story in a long time, as he comes back with a piece of paper showing Izuku the history of how the Oni took over the world and how samurai saved it. As Izuku's completely mesmerized and becomes determined that he wants to become a samurai, or is known as a bushi as well. Then Izuku asks the man if he could become a bushi as well. As the old man looks at Izuku, he notices the determination in his eyes. As the man tells Izuku that it takes a bit more than determination to become a bushi, as he tells Izuku that he probably has family to go back to either way. As Izuku looks down and the old man realizes why exactly he was up here. As the old man comes near Izuku again and tells Izuku to get back up. As Izuku gets up, wondering what the old man's talking about. As the old man tells him if he wants to become a bushi, he needs to get his body physically ready for it as well. As Izuku finally has a smile on his face. As they started their training, Izuku learns a lot from this old man, as he also learns that his name is Musashi, and that he used to be in a bushi band, but they got disbanded, and now it's been many years, and he probably is the last bushi that's still alive. As Izuku learns about this, he learns a lot more about bushi and Oni culture itself. He learns a lot more about their history as well. As Izuku starts his training, Musashi tells him that the main component of becoming a samurai is training his body, as he also learns of a hardening technique where he has to harden his bones, as Musashi makes Izuku keep on punching a tree and so he can harden his bones. As Musashi tells him that this technique is called the stone cutter, as he has to be able to cut the tree and stone itself when he's done hardening his bones. As Izuku's mesmerized and is just surprised that he has to cut through stone itself with his bare hands. As Izuku's completely confused in how he's going to be able to achieve this. As Musashi each day and every day would put Izuku through grueling training to make his body stronger as well. Soon enough, by the age of 12, Izuku's body is very toned and very muscular, and his bones are extremely strong, just enough to cut through stone. One day, Musashi brings Izuku to a waterfall where he sees a giant boulder. As Izuku's confused what they're doing here, Musashi tells Izuku that he wants him to cut this boulder, as Izuku's completely confused what he's talking about. How is he going to be able to cut through a boulder? He was just able to cut through stone, like a tiny pebble or something, just a few days ago. How is he going to be able to cut through a huge boulder like this? As Musashi leaves, telling him that he should be able to do it in the next few months. As Izuku's completely confused, as Musashi leaves, while leaving Izuku alone. For the next few months, Izuku keeps on trying but can't do it, as he's completely confused in how he's supposed to do it. As he hears a voice telling him to let go of his fears, as Izuku is completely confused who's talking to him. As Musashi returns after a few months, noticing that Izuku actually did quite a bit of chipping on the boulder, but no major damage. And Musashi is actually quite impressed, not expecting Izuku to do any major damage to the boulder, and seeing that he actually was able to do some chipping as well. As Musashi tells Izuku that he's actually quite disappointed, telling him that he expected him to do better, but this was just to make Izuku more determined. But Izuku hears the same voice again, telling him to let go of his fears, as Izuku's completely confused what this voice is telling him. As Musashi notices and tells Izuku that it's probably time, as Izuku's completely confused what Musashi's telling him, as Musashi finally mutters up and, tells Izuku that it's time he confronts his old family, as Izuku's completely confused what his master is telling him. As Izuku's completely confused, Musashi starts waving his cane, telling him that he's too old to go down there with him, but he probably should go down there to confront his family, and to get rid of his fear of his old family. As Izuku is completely confused, thinking that he gained enough discipline to overcome his fear, Musashi nods his head, telling him that he did gain enough discipline and combat skills, but he didn't gain anything to, overcome his fear of his old family. As Izuku is confused, he sighs and takes a deep breath, remembering all the traumatic moments that his old family caused him, seeing that he's still a bit afraid of them, seeing that he feels the overcoming fear whenever he thinks about them. He decides that he's gonna go down there, see what he can do to overcome this fear. As Izuku goes down the mountain, ready to confront his family, he's about to open the gates, but then all of a sudden, he hears a huge explosion and then loud screaming coming from inside the gates. He pushes open the gates and sees the Oni fighting other of his family members, as he immediately rushes in, punching the Oni off of everyone and trying to get everyone, as he finally gets to the head of the family, the person who abused him the most, the one that made him suffer the most. As all the other family members are wondering how Izuku is still alive and how strong he is now. As they're thanking Izuku, Izuku really doesn't care, as now he just sees them as pitiful weaklings, seeing them himself as above them, seeing them that they're just weak now, that he shouldn't be afraid of them. As Izuku immediately runs toward the mountains to see if his master is okay. As he gets there, he sees his master surrounded by Oni. Worried that his master was gonna die, Izuku immediately rushes in and starts fighting the Oni with Musashi, as Musashi yells at him, telling him that they're not gonna take any real damage if you don't have your sword yet, as Izuku's completely confused. But then, the Oni start to regenerate, as Izuku is completely surprised by this, and keeps on punching at them, as Musashi yells at Izuku, telling him that he was trying to buy him time before they came. As Izuku looks at Musashi, wondering what he's talking about, as all of a sudden, Izuku notices the two humanoid figures coming toward them, as he's completely confused what's going on, as Musashi grabs Izuku and his sword and throws them to the side, as Izuku is hiding behind a bush, wondering what's going on, as the two figures come by, as two red swirling winds start to surround Musashi, as Musashi finally looks at Izuku and smiles, telling him that he'll be alright. As all of a sudden, as the winds dissipate, he sees that the Oni are gone, and so is Musashi, as Izuku's completely confused what's going on, as Musashi left Izuku with his sword and himself. And this is where we're going to be leaving off the what if. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I mean, if you guys want a part 2, put that down in the comment section. If you guys have any what if ideas as well, please tell me. And if you guys have any questions about the what if, anything in general. And also wanted to talk about the Discord server. It's pretty much dead. It's not coming back. So we're going to start a new one. If you guys want me to make a new one, just tell me, and I'm gonna be making a new Discord server, and you guys can join it. But it's gonna take me a bit since I need to add some mods and stuff like that to it as well. And other than that, guys, I hope you guys have an amazing day.